So last time on the show we had the Zeekr 7X, and I said that was the electric SUV that German automotive luxury should have made. Well, now it's official. German luxury has nowhere to hide. With this Zeekr 007 GT, we have performance, practicality, and looks. And it might be heading to a market near you very soon. But is it the perfect electric GT? Well, let's find out. So here it is, the Zeekr 007 GT, and if it looks kind of familiar, that's because this is kind of like the wagon version of the 7X we reviewed previously on the show. And you're probably thinking, wow, these Chinese EVs are looking better by the day. That's because this is not really a Chinese EV anymore. This has been developed and designed overseas in Zeekr's design center in Gothenburg, Sweden. So being part of the Zeekr 7 family, we're going to have some of the same kind of design traits. At the front here is quite similar to what we saw on the Zeekr 7X, although there are a couple of extra ridges added into the hood for a bit more aggression. This 90-inch light bar is the same, however. So this can be used to display a message or politely, obviously, tell the person in front of you to move out of the way because they're driving too slowly. Unfortunately, this light bar will not be on the exported versions of this vehicle. So instead, you'll have a boring black strip here at the front. A bit of a shame because this is actually a very key part of the vehicle's design language, but nothing can be done really about that. We have active intake here at the bottom, and we also have real live vents here at the side, so not just for show. So while we're here, let's take a look at the front. So I did say this car was practical. We today have the all-wheel drive version of this car, so this is only a 20 or perhaps less litre frunk. If you get the rear-wheel drive version, this is 53 litres, so a bit of extra space there in the front. So as we move down the side, this is where things start to get interesting, and we start to see the GT shape coming to life. So this is essentially the GT version of the sedan. So it's not a GT from the ground up, it's an adapted GT, I suppose you would say. At the back here, it comes very, very aggressive, much more aggressive than the Zeekr 7X, for example. So we have two swallowtail spoilers and one ducktail spoiler. This back does impact the aerodynamics a little bit, so we have a 0.23 drag coefficient, but the trade-off is additional practicality, additional trunk space. We'll have a look in the trunk space a little bit later. So inside the 7 GT, and once again we have electric doors. So these are in the front and the back. Every door, in fact, is electric. Necessary? I don't know. But is it nice to have? Sometimes, yeah. So we can easily see some similarities between this and the 7X. In the middle here, we have a similar kind of setup, although this screen is slightly smaller. This is 15.4 inches. And then we have these quick items at the bottom here. So we have the lock, the trunk opening, your media, a customizable button, and kind of like the demist as well. This center unit, I'm not the biggest fan of, to be honest. I think you can kind of see what they've tried to do. They tried to make something which kind of envelops you and has this kind of sporty feeling. I think there's too much going on. There's too many levels. So we have a level up here, we have a level down here, we've got the drinks in here, which aren't always easy to grab actually because they're so far in, and then we have the charging pads on the top. And here we have the 10.2 inch driver's cluster, which we saw on the 7X as well. The seats in here are super nice. We've got some Nappa leather and some kind of like micro suede material, so it feels very premium inside this interior. And what about this color? It looks super sporty and premium. Kind of remind you something that a German luxury brand might come out with. So we've got 23 speakers inside this vehicle, including 2 in my headrest here. And this is Zeekr's own proprietary sound system. I did complain about it in the 7X, but actually in here it sounds really, really good. So this vehicle is supposedly a GT, a Grand Tourer, so good for longer trips, much more comfortable, much more range. So today we're going to put this to the test. I feel sometimes these labels are thrown around a bit by the marketing department to sell cars, especially with Chinese EV brands, by the way. So today we're going to test this. I have been given an errand. It's my wife's birthday. She wants some peaches. Unfortunately, these peaches are in the next province, so it's around a 5-hour round trip. So we're going to go pick up the peaches, and on the way we're going to test how the GT is to drive in the city, on the highway, and hopefully on some windy country roads as well, to see if it really really lives up to this GT label. Okay, let's go. So just put the destination into the GPS, around 150 kilometers. Going to take us a couple of hours to get there. So hopefully we can have a good all-round comprehensive idea of how the GT is to drive. On the way, I'm going to tell you a bit more about the car. So as we're about to go on a fairly long trip, let's understand more about the battery capabilities in the GT. So we have two battery options, either a 75 kilowatt hour LFP in-house developed golden battery, which is Zeekr's own battery, of course, or a 100 kilowatt hour Qilin battery from CATL, and that's an NMC battery. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the same as the Zeekr 7X. These give us good amounts of range. So if we have the bigger battery and the rear-wheel drive version, this can give us up to 820 kilometers of range. This CLTC though, so it's probably more like 20 or 30% less than that in real life. Today we'll test the efficiency to see what kind of real ranges we get from the GT. This version that I am driving is the all-wheel drive version. So we have the bigger battery, but we have four-wheel drive. So this means we get a little bit of a reduced range, 730 kilometers. So it's still pretty good, and it's definitely enough for our trip. Driving around the city, the GT is perfectly comfortable. We do have air suspension in here, so this is up to 165 millimeters of ground clearance. So you have a leeway, you have an adjustable range of 55 millimeters. I wouldn't say you should take this car off-road, no way, by no means whatsoever. However, when you're driving around the city or on kind of country roads, it does absorb a lot of the potholes, a lot of the kind of debris you may have on the road very well. One other thing I did notice is that while we do have the buttons down here, the same as on the 7X, the glove box button has been removed from here. Let us know what you think about that in the comments below. So as this is a Grand Tourer, let's see what kind of trunk space we have in the back here. So upon opening this trunk, I'm a little bit concerned that this boot opening is a little bit low. So I'm 197 centimeters more or less. So in the trunk itself, we have 645 liters of space. This does include the storage underneath the floor, which can be expanded to 1,737 liters with the second row seats down. So a decent amount of space. As you can see here, we have some kind of like railing fixtures here. So this can be used with an optional kind of like a fencing, so it can be used to keep your stuff secure on those long journeys. As well, we have elastic here for kind of smaller items, as well as some tethers here so you can tie all your stuff down when you are going on your grand tours. So after a little bit of highway driving, and I've just started giving myself a massage here. So these seats have heating, ventilation, and an 8-point massage, which is great when you're on those longer journeys and you need to chill out a little bit. They're also 14-way adjustable, so you can get the exact position you want, as well as thigh support, which is great if you're a lanky boy like myself. These double glazed windows are excellent. You barely get any of the outside noise, so you can relax, have your massage, and listen to your audiobook. So Zeekr has NZP, which is its kind of like driver assist stuff, which is not the best one that I've used, to be honest, but it's great for highway driving, for kind of adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, occasional lane changing. The AR, I don't really know what's AR about it, but this heads-up display is very good, very bright, even though we're in the middle of the day. One feature I thought was good on this, which is that my friend told me that if you go over the speed limit, it gives you a countdown distance timer to show you where the speed camera is coming, to make sure you are going the correct speed when you reach that camera. He said this was a great function. I think I have to agree with him. If you want to adjust your HUD or your wind mirrors, it has to be done inside the menu here. It's not very difficult, but it's probably too difficult to do while you're driving along. So make sure you have these in the right places before you get on the road. All right, so we are off the highway now. We managed to find some smaller country roads here. Zeekr have done it again. They managed to overpower another one of their OEVs. So this is 475 kilowatts, 710 newtons meters of torque. This is the four-wheel drive version. We'll put the stats up for the rear-wheel drive version on the screen. So you're thinking, that's not too bad. That's actually quite a low number for a Chinese EV. Well, this car is quite small and it's not super heavy. So this actually does 0 to 100 in 2.95 seconds. Who is in the Zeekr design engineering meetings going, going more power, you know, Tim Taylor, we need more horsepower. It's just like, it's ridiculous, man. It's just completely unnecessary. Okay, you do have the choice, and if you were given this choice, I would of course go for the rear wheel drive version, which is something like just under 6 seconds 0 to 100, which is perfectly fine for most people. Just calm down, Zeekr, calm down, please. Anyway, so the car is very low and it feels very planted, especially when you put it in sports mode and put the air suspension down. It's very confident even on a rainy day like today. It reminds me a little bit of the Polestar 4, kind of their experience. I wouldn't say that level, but it's definitely towards that direction. You know, it's definitely not your typical Chinese EV in terms of driving experiences, and it is really fun to drive. I've been driving it in sport mode all the way here, but anyway, we're here now, so time to pick up some peaches. So I've got my peaches and I'm going to put them in the back of the GT. They've got a nice little spot here underneath the floor, both of these, and if I put these on top, my peaches are nice and safe. Ain't no one stealing these peaches, that's for sure. Now we're going to get a quick charge before we head back. So just stop to give the GT a quick top up while I'm here. So depending on what battery you have, either the 75 kWh gold battery, this can charge from 10 to 80% in just 10.5 minutes. The larger Qilin C80L battery can do it in around 13 to 40 minutes. So both super fast charging. Apparently this is capable of up to 500 kilowatts of charging speed if you can find a charger that can actually do that. Today I've only managed to find one that can take it up to around 100 kilowatts of charging speed. So while these charging speeds are great, the infrastructure is behind. So is there a lot of point in having super fast charging when the chargers can't do it themselves? One cool thing about the GT is that on the B pillar it actually has a screen built in, so that when you're waiting for your charge or whatever, you can see the progress without having to look inside the car itself. A nice, practical and useful feature. All right, so in the back of the GT, and once again we have the electric doors here as well, and in the back not too bad actually. So my seat is in my driver's position and I actually have a lot of legroom, more than enough, although my legs are very bent. The floor does seem to be a little bit high. Obviously we've got the battery underneath and it is a sedan, or was a sedan shape, so we've got some compromises there. Headroom is probably just passable for me. I am 197 centimeters, so for most people this would be fine. We also have some additional reclining availability here, so I can go from there to there. This is where I can go to. So actually, if I put my seat there, I actually have plenty of headroom. These second row windows are tinted. On the top trim, these second row seats can be heated. So as we head back, I'm going to change the car from sports mode to economy mode. So in sports mode, I actually managed to get a very respectable 19 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. On the way back, we can do this even better in economy. Let's see how we do. So having got back with my peaches, I've got a efficiency of 18.3 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. So it's not bad. I think, you know, you're going to get a lot better than that if you have the rear wheel drive version. But for all wheel drive, it's not too bad, and a lot of highway driving there as well. So could be better, yeah, but still not the worst. So there we go, the Zeekr 007 GT, which will just be known as the Zeekr 7 GT in markets such as Europe. I really like all the Zeekrs that I have driven in the past, and this one is no exception. In fact, I would say the driving experiences of this 007 GT is among the best the brand offers. And it delivers on the GT label, so it has the range and it has the comfort for those longer trips. Price-wise, official overseas pricing for this vehicle has not been released as of filming, but if we look at some of the other vehicles, we can provide a rough estimate of that. So the question is, would you choose this over the Zeekr 7X? Well, we're going to help you decide with a comparison video coming out in the coming weeks, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. And most importantly, what do you think of the 7 GT? Do you think it is a car to compete with German luxury? Make sure you let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.